Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started because I don't want to hold Rod up. I know we have a lot of information to fit in this 45-minute session, and we do have a hard stop right at 12:45 so that we can prepare for our 1 o'clock session. So let's kick this off. This session, again, is with Rod Wilson of RAD Computing. We're going to be talking about working remotely successfully and securely in 2021, and then a look into the future. So what's down the road? As you know, in 2020, many businesses had to pivot to remote work, but is your current setup the best? Are there things that you could change or adapt that might help make your data, your information, your customers' information more secure, make your staff more safe, and also more efficient or productive? And who doesn't want that? So Rod's here to help. Rod Wilson has been in IT support for over 20 years. He's a Microsoft certified systems engineer and holds multiple other technology certifications. After working in corporate IT for a number of years, Rod started RAD Computing in 2005. And Rod's technology support consulting focuses primarily on small to medium-sized businesses. So many of you that are here on the call today, really in his niche. From the entry point of your internet connection, servers, cloud solutions, cybersecurity, business applications, and to the icons on your desktop and anything and everything in between. Rod's depth of knowledge keeps his clients' technology current and protected. Rod knows the culture of small to medium businesses. When technology is not working, doing business is impacted. And he recognizes that. So when the business is impacted, he knows it's critical to respond quickly, knowledgeably, and to listen to the client's needs. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Rod Wilson from RAD Computing. And at the end of this session, Matt from our BBB office will be monitoring any questions and asking them, and then I will pop back on at the end. So enjoy, and I hope you get some valuable information to take away. And Rod, I think you might be muted, so you might need to unmute first. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Perfect. Thank you.
I hate to even say those words. So sorry about that. So thank you, Jackie, for the introduction. And thank you all for coming to this summit session. As Jackie said, my name is Rod Wilson. I'm the founder and owner of RAD Computing. We are what is called a managed service provider for small, medium businesses. And we've been servicing clients for over 20 years. Just a quick blurb because I have a lot of information to pack in here. I drove my official stake in the ground 16 years ago and decided to do this as full-time work. And I've learned many, many things about being a business owner. The truth of it is, like, I love technology and I just wanted to pay my bills. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I love fixing people's stuff. That has now evolved, fast forward 16 years, and I've learned some things. I've learned how to be a business owner. I've learned how to be an accountant. I've learned how to have some HR skills. I've learned how to be a salesman. I've learned more about being a technician. And then some other important things is I've learned how to be a team player, when I started hiring employees. And ultimately, I actually have a passion and desire to see my own team and my employees that work with me. I want to see them succeed in their own lives too. So I say all those things to qualify my seat as a small business owner. And this gives me an advantage of how to suggest the best IT solutions for other small business owners. I understand the culture. I understand the day-to-day needs. I understand that most days, I think we're all running a million miles an hour, and to deliver what we have to offer to our customers and to our clients. So all of those things I consider every single day for every single phone call for every single client that we service. So today specifically, I want to talk about working remotely. Obviously, I'm really happy for the people that showed up and that didn't show up. That like we're all still like in business and working. What we've had to do over these past couple of years just to keep the doors open is it's staggering at the efforts to keep things together. So I really appreciate all the efforts of us small business owners that are grinding it every day. Specifically, I'm just going to jump right into it for the sake of time and the amount of information. So, the first thing I want to talk about here is how security in the remote workplace, and this will also touch on just security in general in technology. So this could be an endless conversation with endless protective measures that requires an endless amount of money. And I get that, I get that this could just like go on forever as far as securing environments. But what I'm after personally and for my customers is I'm after the best solution for the lowest cost. I'm not talking about being so prudent that there's a failure to protect. I'm referring to doing the due diligence to find reasonable costs for most effective protection. So items that we look at in the workplace, if you're familiar with ransomware, that's where a machine gets infected. There's various ways that can happen. It encrypts your data and locks it, and somebody says, give me money and I'll give you back your data. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in real time, and it is tragic. If you're familiar with email phishing, these have gotten extremely crafty now. We actually have to spend, more time on analyzing emails to see if they're actually legit or not. Years ago, it used to be at a glance, we could tell, that's a bogus email. Nowadays, they have refined their skills. They meaning the hackers. And then there's things like open ports on firewalls and things like that. Believe it or not, I've had conversations with people that they don't think their information is that important. So why would anybody want it? So they think, why would it happen to me? I can tell you that we got to throw that one out and just believe that like everyone is a target nowadays. Data is hacked every minute. This is literally professional organized crime going on. This is not the 12-year-old in his room with a bottle of Mountain Dew and a bag of Doritos just playing games. I have experienced personally with people that I know that have been out hundreds of thousands of dollars due to ransomware and email phishing scams. And today information is money. Your data has a price tag on it. What that price tag is, these hackers are doing research to find that out. So these are just just a 30,000 foot overview as to some of the areas to be aware of as business owners and protecting our data, protecting our technology so that like we're not out of business and out of service due to some obvious security hole that was left not addressed. In talking about what kind of protections there are, and again, this is not just for the remote workplace, it's for the whole workplace. There's something called multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. That term is basically means like it's the same thing when you log into your banking website and you get text to code. That is the second layer of authentication. That's why it's called two-factor. That nowadays is absolutely a minimum requirement to secure simple things like your email. I know potential new customers come to me and they don't even have these kinds of things enabled. And that now, it used to open a tiny hole of hacking. Now it opens a ginormous hole for hacking now. Multi-factor authentication is important. There's also email protection filtering. This is kind of in this area, I'd say it's probably, I don't know, I'd even go 50-50 on whether people are even aware of these kinds of things. This is basically a filter that sits in front of your inbox. And I'm not talking like the ones you can, pay $40 a month and install it on your desktop. I'm talking like a cloud-based email protection solution. These things filter out and look for the phishing emails, and they look for the scams and the attachments. I mean, gosh, I remember back in the day when all we had to worry about was like a Word document being emailed to me. And we are so far beyond that with more sophistication. There's other cool tools like phishing testing. I can actually create my own phishing email, scam email, send it out to your users, and I can see who clicks on it. And then we can use that information to run reports on educating the end user on what I like to call click responsibly. So some popular solutions out there, we use one called AppRiver. We partnered with them for years. Another one is Mimecast. So there is solutions for that. And then we have things called endpoint protection, also known as antivirus. It is now endpoint protection with AI, that's artificial intelligence. These kinds of things, I believe, from my position and my experience, these should be standardized, monitored. They should and be smart with things like artificial intelligence. Some popular ones is Sophos or Cylance. We use Sophos. I've had a really good experience with them. These products will also help like protect your machine in a multifaceted approach, from web filtering, phishing scams. They also do a little bit of the phishing scam stuff, your regular malware, ransomware. But the other awesome thing about endpoint protection nowadays with the right partner is that the artificial intelligence can see if it's an infection they don't know about or a threat that the endpoint protection doesn't know about. If it recognizes some fingerprints of it, it can take action to stop what's going on. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And then firewalls. Like typically small medium business. What do you got for internet? Oh, I got Comcast. They put a modem in. It's this combo box that does like wireless. That's where my wireless is. Kind of thing. Those are very simple, dumbed down kind of firewalls, but not really firewalls. So there's things for firewalls that fit for small medium business, and they have again smart features in them to stop threats even right before they enter your network. They don't stop all threats, but it is a layer that we have found necessary and standardized on to help protect your network. Going into, talking more about securing the remote workplace after we've taken a look at some security things, these are some of the steps that we go through in taking a look at how does the remote workplace work for your business, because this is not a one size fits all. A lot of us had to scramble. We had to get something up and running. There are some businesses that have remote connectivity 7 different ways. That makes 7 different potential things that have to be managed. And I'm really big on standardization. Overall, implementing the standard at the beginning lowers the overall cost and administration as time goes on. So some things to think about are inventorying the company and the end user needs. We can always hit the pause button on what's going on and just take some time to actually do this due diligence. Is your data in-house now, or is it in the cloud? Or is it a mix of both? We need to take a look at that. We also need to look at your internet connection bandwidth. Back in the early days when we were all learning, because remote connectivity has been around for decades, but not the way it is now, but back in the day, when we were still learning how does the internet bandwidth work with remote connectivity and accessing data remotely, it is a big player in whether my phone rings off the hook because there's problems or whether my phone is quiet. And I like to put in solutions that doesn't make my phone ring. I love my clients and love to talk to them, but I look for solutions that there's not constant callbacks about. Internet connection bandwidth is one of those things. And what is your firewall capability, depending on what kind of remote solution we're talking about. We'll talk about a couple of the remote solutions in a minute. And what data does the end user really need access to? Is it just files, Word, Excel, PDFs, things like that? Are there large database applications? I can tell you one thing that has grown over time is QuickBooks. A lot of people use QuickBooks, and QuickBooks has just it has gotten they have just grown immensely in the size of like their data, the size of the database. How much power it takes just to run the program now is much different than 10 years ago. Just thinking I can take my laptop home and QuickBooks is loaded on it, and I can connect back to the office and open up my QuickBooks database that's on the office computer or the office server. It just doesn't go well a lot. So there's things to think about as far as the data that needs to be accessible. Again, 30,000 foot overview here. Also another angle that we look at this from is what should I use? Should I use personal use machines? Should the company provide computers? And this is a bit of a gray area, and because I believe because it is about cost. It's about cost. It's about the business processes. It's about business policies on using machines, and so this is in my experience what I've seen with the personal use or company provided computers. Obviously, cost is a concern. We just can't go out duplicating machines. Although in the past 2 years, that is what has happened in a lot of cases. And nowadays to get the kind of laptops I like to use for my clients, if I'm lucky, I can get them in a week. I see models are out 2 to 3 months. So we're still having issues with inventory. So that could be a thing where people are like, oh, just bring your own device and it'll be okay. Going back to the risk of security threats, these are a significant concern, whether we're choosing personal or company provided computers. Reliability for the end users. What kind of machine you got at home? Can't you just connect in with that? It's kind of like, oh, hey, I'll have my IT guy connect up with you at home and we'll load the VPN or we'll get you configured on your home machine. And I can tell you more often than not, when we connect up to people's home personal computers to get them connected to work, it is the majority of the time it doesn't go well. So what are the risks of using personal devices? So personal use machines, it's non-standard software. There are unknowns of what is installed on the personal computers, and these create strong concerns. I'll connect the dots about the security around this also. I'm not saying people can't do it. It's just strongly suggested that we don't do it, because depending on how this personal machine is connected to the office remotely is going to dictate whether there's a potential for threats to jump onto company data. And then what is there to gain by using company issued devices? I just noticed my typo there. Sorry about that. Company issued computers, we strongly suggest them. It can be a case by case basis. Again, we need to take a look and evaluate what the need is, and how the data needs to be accessed and what needs to be accessed. But with company issued devices, we can standardize the security. We can standardize the accountability of the end user and what they're doing for work. There's accountability if there is a security breach, and overall in the long run, there is a lower administration with it. and with using standardized processes on business use machines. I just had a customer, actually, they just went out and bought 8 low cost laptops, and they are only to be used for the specific purpose of remoting into their network. This particular client has kind of managed their own IT until I guess the pain got great enough, and the pain got great enough where they had some incidences, and they decided to hop on with some of our suggestions. So there is an initial upfront cost, but I can tell you that the ease of knowing that they all have standard business issued laptops with standardized good protection on them, and they are only used for one purpose, to remote in, everyone sleeps better. And then we can talk about remote connection solutions. So one of the solutions is an in-house solution. It's virtual private network, VPN, if you're not familiar with that. The pros about this, pros, cons, and I really don't want to get into like the good and the bad, but the one of the things that is desirable is it's under your control. It's in-house. It is very strong and secure if it's set up correctly. It's a one-time cost, and it is fairly easy to implement. So don't be intimidated if somebody says it's incredibly complex. It really isn't now. This has been around for decades. It's only gotten improved with limiting hacking exposure. And there is limited hacking exposure with this. You know, your firewall on your internet connection is a very small target for a hacker to go after versus cloud remote processes. You know, so if your data is in-house and not in the cloud, there is a single point of failure. If your internet goes out at the office, you know, or in-house, your in-house resources are unavailable. I think internet connections have gotten more resilient, and those kinds of things are not much of an issue nowadays. The other thing you can leverage is remote desktop. A popular thing that is done is we call it RDP over VPN. That's remote desktop over virtual private network. These work solid. They are, reliable, and they just work. The problems that can go on with it are very easy to identify. So there's a very low administration cost to it. So that's a really popular, neat one to do. We know exactly what to expect and how it behaves. And we don't get a whole lot of, oh, I couldn't connect because of whatever. There's very minimal training involved in this too. In fact, if you want to get into the virtual, the high-end virtual world of virtual desktops, it's all based on remote desktop. It's been around forever. So I've actually been experimenting with Chromebooks for using remote desktop, and it works. And it kind of put a smile on my face because Chromebooks are low-cost devices to issue as business use machines. One part of this, though, that could be detract from it is there does have to be a dedicated computer in the office for a person to connect to. So when they have their laptop, a business issued laptop at home, and they connect their VPN, they have to have a computer in the office to connect to. And there's ways to help mitigate the cost on that also. But that's another separate deep rabbit hole that we won't get into right now. But there are options for that. And then the next kind of remote connection solutions, which people are familiar with, is things like Log Me In or PC Anywhere or Go to My PC or AnyDesk. Teams is kind of building a beta flavor of this stuff too, Microsoft Teams. The thing about these is they're easy to deploy. Everybody knows about it. The scramble to get remote workplace in place. Oh, just get a PC Anywhere subscription or get any. I can tell you, and even the cost of these things have been leveraged by these companies because AnyDesk used to be free. And in the past year, now the free version is a minimum pay for version. So, there's things like that that's going on that, kind of I just like, wow, really? The things with this is like the ease of deployment is it's very simple to deploy these, and it gives everybody like, hey, I can see my computer at work, everything works, they can go to work. There is recurring monthly costs. These can get expensive now. Prices have gone up. So there's just a consideration there on the monthly costs. This is dependent on the third party uptime. So if you sign up for Go to My PC or Log Me In, we are now dependent on this third party up in the cloud for my access to my computer in the office. Or my not so much my data, but again, we're talking about remoting into a computer into the office. And I believe that there's more exposure to potential hacks also, because there's a very large target in the cloud that if hackers can get into that, they literally have access to your network. So I think there are hacks that go on that are shared on the dark web that haven't been out in mainstream knowledge yet, but there are vulnerabilities with any of these mainstream remote connection solutions. So just some things to keep in mind about that. Where your login credentials are stored in the cloud third party, and again, this essentially put your office network, it's available in the cloud. And it's a public cloud, and the third party takes on the responsibility of securing that access. So just consider these things before onboarding any remote solutions. And if you've already committed and are ingrained into one of these, there's always an opportunity to evaluate and only consider changes. It's not a have to. And some other considerations I like to talk about is, again, there's no one size that fits all. We can do in-house, we can do cloud, we can do a hybrid access to data. So when we take into consideration if your data is in-house, if it's in the cloud, it's a mix of both, or maybe you want to update your systems to migrate to a cloud, to the cloud, or a mix of both. I believe that a proper, expert, all-encompassing evaluation is required so you can achieve the best fit. Cost analysis is huge. That should be completed of all in-house versus cloud solutions. The monthly recurring costs of cloud services can become immense. If you have ever tried out a cloud cost calculator, buckle up, because they get extremely complicated depending on what you need. A lot of general costs are advertised, but beware of the detailed costs in smaller print. When considering the remote workplace, in-house with VPN or cloud solutions with two-factor authentication, also consider the amount of time to train the employees. The ease of use for the employees, the standardizing on hardware, security solutions, these are all going to be things that can help keep the costs down. Evaluating your infrastructure security risks. A lot of these things we talked about with ransomware, complex passwords. There's password expirations, two-factor authentication. And depending on your needs, there's a possibility everything could be migrated to the cloud. A VPN solution then is not needed, and it makes everybody's life easier on a day-to-day basis. But these things really have to be evaluated and looked at. Another angle to the remote workplace now is communication. How do we communicate if we're not under the same roof? This is something that I'm still refining even in my own business. Microsoft Teams has been great, but I'll tell you, I don't like to wait for a response. And I'm really challenged with that. I like to be able to, I don't know, yell down the hallway or something. I'm just kidding. But, I like to be able to see people face to face. So I've been challenged with this also. One thing that has helped bridge the gap in a big way is VoIP phones and the phone apps that couple with the VoIP phone systems. I personally, we are partners with Ring Central, Part of the reason I did that is because of their cell phone app is absolutely amazing. And I can call people from my cell phone, Ring Central app, and they think I'm in the office. And then also there's Zoom and others, but I think there's a lot here to talk about, just about the communication aspect, keeping accountability in place with employees, making sure everybody can just have that cohesiveness and that energy that's in an office when we're all meeting in person. I try to, like, even right now, talking here to a screen, I'm imagining everybody is out there listening. I'd really prefer to be able to see everybody face to face, but right now, this is as good as it's going to get with communication. If you're not on a VoIP phone system that works really well, that's something to talk about, because these VoIP systems can work extremely well. The call quality can be excellent. And I'll give you, for instance, my office manager actually relocated to another state 4 years ago, and he has been working remotely for me ever since. I have a TV screen in our main office area, and he's on that screen in live video all day long. We can basically walk right up and have conversation in real time. And he also answers incoming phone calls and can easily forward those calls up here to Connecticut, where we are, or wherever we happen to be. And I have, over the 4 years, I never announced to anybody that he had relocated, but over the 4 years, when I've told people that he lives in another state, everybody is surprised. They had no idea. So it can actually work very well. I think for me, there was just some psychological kind of hurdles I had to overcome, because again, I like to see people in person. And I still need to continue to evaluate the impact of being under one roof with my staff. I've entertained abandoning office space or some kind of hybrid model. The thing is that we have the tools. We have the tools available to be able to set up a secure remote workplace. We have put processes and policies in place to help keep that healthy and the best that we can. Okay, on to the next. And then also, doing a cost versus benefit versus risk. I believe, and I won't speak for anybody here, but I believe cost at the end of the day is what drives most of most decisions. I like to use the analogy that I can identify with. People talk to me about their antivirus, or they're like, oh my gosh, how did I get infected by something? I pay for this, I don't know, Symantec. It came free with Comcast, or I pay my subscription every year. It's my $69 subscription. And people have an expectation that it's somehow supposed to protect all their lives worth of data. And what I like to tell them is, we have multi-billion-dollar corporations that can't seem to keep data safe, that spend millions and millions on IT security, and all of our data is floating out there on the dark web. So the expectations have to be dialed down, and really take a look at the cost versus benefit versus risk. There are, for small, medium businesses, there are reasonable protection solutions for reasonable costs. Is it going to cost? Yes, but I believe that they are reasonable. Artificial intelligence with endpoint protection, smarter firewalls, and email security are just some of the basic fundamental layers that we need to use nowadays. And also, the monthly recurring costs versus one-time costs on some of these solutions. Nowadays, you have to dig around, or I have to dig around to find one-time cost solutions in endpoint protection and things like that. But there are, because everybody wants to advertise monthly subscriptions now. So I like to dig a little deeper and take a look at what all the options are. And what does the future of the remote workplace look like? Well, the infrastructure is already here. We all have very fast internet connections, fast wireless, more coverage, hotspots, fiber optics to homes. The highway is built and being built and continually improved. So how we get there is really in place, and this remote workplace is not going away. For businesses that primarily work in front of a computer. Looking at some of the surveys, I mean, there's a bazillion surveys out there. 73% of workers surveyed by Microsoft want a flexible schedule. 41% of that group will change jobs for a flexible schedule. That's something else a business owner has to consider. So, in considering all these other pieces that we've talked about of setting up somebody for remote work, like it has to be, it's changed for us. It has just changed. In hiring employees now, we offer a work from home option. I consider it a privilege to work from home. I don't consider it a have to. So that's my starting point for my personal work from home solution, and it seems to work for us here. So the remote workplace solutions are so well known. The ability to make it work is possible, and it is here to stay. How each business structures a work from home policy is very individual, but we have some guidelines here with security and technology that can absolutely be implemented for your structure. And what I want to touch on, some important takeaways, is do a thorough evaluation, create a budget for security and standardizing your remote work policies, or have some kind of idea of reasonable ways to be able to invest in that. And do a cost benefit analysis. I did for one of my customers when they used to have, they still have email in-house because that's the route they chose. We did a thorough cost benefit analysis of keeping email servers in-house versus going to the cloud, and also evaluating all the vulnerabilities versus in-house versus the cloud, and also the administration that it's going to take. At the end of the day, with looking at all the information on the table, they chose to keep their email solution in-house. A lot of people just jump on the Office 365 subscriptions because they think that's all that there is, but there is at least one other option. Get an expert opinion. You can take my opinion or you can take someone else's. Just please get an expert opinion. And convenient does not mean secure. Secure means secure. Getting an expert opinion can help you get secure. And a successful implementation needs a successful evaluation. So just some important takeaways there. And the last thing, I believe, is my next slide. If you are not aware of the Connecticut Cybersecurity Bill, this went into effect in October 1 of this year. So we do work for aerospace, and aerospace clients have to adhere to this thing called NIST. And it's a National Institute of Standards and Technology organization. And they have created a benchmark of cybersecurity to measure against. I don't know, 3 years ago, it was a suggestion. And now this has evolved into, for aerospace, it has evolved into mandatory. So what Connecticut has done is businesses are now responsible for reasonable efforts to establish cybersecurity measures, and they are using some NIST, some flavors of NIST to measure businesses against. What this means is that if your network was ransomware and you have to pay a ransom of $100,000 and you have $100,000 cybersecurity insurance policy, if you have not taken reasonable measures to protect your network, then the insurance company is not totally liable to pay your coverage. So that is a strong concern for everybody, because I've known some companies that have paid this out before this bill went into effect, and the insurance companies do their due diligence to make sure that they are legitimate claims. So we can talk more about that one-on-one. You can contact me at the info@radcomputing.com there on the screen. I want to button this up. It's 12:43. Lots of information. I hope that addressed some things. And please do not hesitate to reach out and ask for help. I'm always happy to talk about these things. So thank you for coming, and thank you for letting me speak to you all.
Thank you, Rod. I think we're looking at the chat box and questions right now, and I see that we have a thank you. So I think everyone kind of took a lot of information. Like you said, that's a lot of information, but all super relevant and helpful information. So I really appreciate you coming today and imparting that wisdom on our accredited businesses and businesses in attendance. And also thank you for sharing your contact information, because I'm sure if people have questions, they can reach out to you directly.
Yep, I actually just answered a question for Bob about Macs. Really
Oh, great.
Good, yes, really good question about Macs. Macs are so on the radar. I'll just tell you real quick. I was anti-Mac for most of my life. Now I am a Mac fan, and yeah, they are absolutely vulnerable now. And the mainstream endpoint protection has now caught up with really good solutions for Macs too. So they can be protected, and they are vulnerable.
That's really good to know. I always thought, you hear that, and I always thought, I mean, even phones, iPhones, I always thought that they were invulnerable. Yes, so thank you all for attending. Our next session is going to start shortly. It is at, what time is it now? It's at 1 o'clock, and it is on emotional intelligence and building agility in your workforce. Maureen Ross Gem will be joining us, and she owns a company called Emerge Leadership Academy, and she will be talking to you about how to build your own emotional intelligence to better engage with your staff, your clients, why it's important, and giving you some tips and tools to be able to do that. So we hope you can join us. If you have not registered yet, definitely go over to our betterbusinesssummit.com website, click program registration, and go ahead and register for that and any other sessions that you might not have had a chance to register for yet. We do hope to see you on other sessions today and tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great day, everyone.